Transition now, get out of OBS so they can't see what's going on, and we should be good to go. Hello everybody, welcome to our first ever drawn out rant. Looking at the video right now to make sure that this is actually working, and I might be a few seconds behind on my little thing. Yeah, there it goes. And mute myself, looks like the audio is working perfect. Hello everybody. Welcome to the first drawn-out rant. Since it's the first time this has ever gone through, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of exactly what we're doing here, because the little text box I put in the community tab is really confusing. So, what we've got for you today is I'm going to be ranting on about the voted topic that you guys wanted to listen about, which was on the Discord, asphalt paving and the many absolute nonsenses that happened during that time period. While this is going on, I'll also be drawing out the visuals for the Gay Monopoly video that will be coming out this Saturday. So that's the double up on what things you go here. I can see that everything is working perfectly. You can see my awful little dashboard at the bottom there. And you get a beautiful rendition of the software that I use to make all of the terrible illustrations that go into my videos. Not Microsoft Paint, but up here in the corner, Paint 3D, because I can't even get the basic things right. So we'll go ahead and begin drawing out the visuals. I won't be giving you any context to the visuals that go up on screen because I don't want to spoil the Gay Monopoly video for you. So you're just going to have to guess as to what's going on. You got a little indicator right here, but there's going to be some wacky crap up on the stream later. But before we get any further, let's go ahead and start talking about the absolute wonderful world that is asphalt paving. So what I can do is, you've got two options ahead of you. I can just jump straight into the wacky crap with no context, leaving everybody confused as to what the heck is going on, or I can give you a basic rundown of the stuff that we do tend to do while doing asphalt paving production, because as you can tell, it's normally an industry that you usually don't get to see a lot of first-hand experience of unless you are at the site where they're working while they're working. And we do a lot to ensure that not too many of people get to see us work for the reasons that will become paramount once we get into the personal what are they called, those interactions that we tend to have with the public. It's not really a good thing. So what I'm going to do is give you a few basic rundowns as to what we do in terms of asphalt paving, just so you can get a full picture of everything that just grinds our gears when we just try to make some basic infrastructure for the nation to run on. So how asphalt paving tends to work is we get together and start the day off early. It's usually about a 7 a.m. It's usually the start of the day starts at 7 a.m. unless there's an extreme amount of heat that's going on that day where we might start earlier. Asphalt paving can be broken up into three main parts, that being preparation, bottom coat, and surface. If you ever see a project like an asphalt paving project that tends to not be particular being worked on at the current moment, or there's just nobody around, that's because they're done for the day. They've finished off their portion of the work that they want to do for that day, and they want to go do something else. Because if you want a good asphalt paving project, it's going to take you a minimum of 3 days of work in order to get that done correctly. Because if you don't prep it right, it's going to be terrible. If you don't do the bottom coat correctly, it's going to be structurally terrible. And if you don't do the surface correctly, it's going to look terrible. So that's usually what ends up happening there. In terms of the difficulty of asphalt paving, that depends on which project you're doing at that certain point in time. Usually, the most difficult part of asphalt paving, in terms of the work that you do, is actually the prep. You would think it'd be laying down 300-degree asphalt in 90-degree heat. No, that's the easy part. That's the stuff that you just do randomly, or that's the stuff that you just do normally that you're accustomed to, not the prep, no. So, what ends up happening is, usually when you prep something, you get either three different things that you could do. You can either do milling, you can do grading, or you can have to deal with dirt, and you don't want to deal with dirt. Because when you've got dirt under asphalt, you're dead. You want stone. If you don't have stone, your asphalt project is going to be absolutely abysmal in terms of structure, in terms of look, in terms of being able to last more than 2 years. This is where a lot of the scams that I'll get into later tend to happen, is that they just come in, lay it on the dirt, and leave. And then you're done. Your road is not lasting more than 2 years. So what ends up happening is we'll go ahead and look at milling first. Milling is what you tend to do when you repair roads. Repairing roads with milling is very, very easy depending on what equipment you have. Milling can get you in and out of a project, tear out an entire road in less than a couple of hours if you have the right equipment, which is the milling machine. Usually what the milling machine does, it's a big, massive machine that tears up the road, puts it on a conveyor belt, and throws it into a dump truck so that you can actually get to the underneath portion of the road that is structurally sound, take off the crap asphalt that's on the top, and get some good asphalt in there on top of it. But let's see. I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself in terms of the milling machine, what the milling does and stuff. We'll go ahead and get to some of the misconceptions of asphalt. So a lot of asphalting is very tough because a lot of the general public just sees you lay down a road and think, well, that's it. One of my least favorite instances of asphalt depiction comes in the form of the movie Cars, where Lightning McQueen drags just this massive machine behind him, and in a couple of hours, a perfectly preserved one-coat road that just looks flawless the second time he does it, not the first, because that looks like crap, but it just looks flawless. No work needs to be done on the sides, everything is fine, and everything is just fantastic. The people of Radiator Springs are just thrilled to see that happen. That's not what happens at all, not even close. Yeah. So what you want to do in terms of asphalting, you want to prep the ground, you want to wait a day so that you can go prep other projects because you don't want to do just one project a day. You want to lay your bottom coat, which is going to be the structural point of your asphalt. That is going to allow you to lay the surface coat on that, but only after that part cools. Once that part has cooled, you have yourself a nice structure that you can lay the surface on, which is the good asphalt. That stuff is going to be the looker. That's the stuff that you see in terms of what you perceive as a good paving job, is when the surface is on the top. When the surface looks good, the whole project looks phenomenal. When the surface is bad, the surface looks terrible. The whole project is just a complete failure. And the big part of that resounds in why the public tends to think of asphalting as a slow and monotonous, like when you see a paving crew, just either there's nobody there, the road is closed, and there's nothing going on, or the paving crew is just standing around. That is because paving is a very long and complicated process. What a lot of people don't realize when you do this stuff is that part that I mentioned about the cooling, that is the most important part of the entire process. Because a lot of people, you might assume, well, if you just lay the bottom coat, you can just lay the top coat right on top of that, and since they're both hot, they'll just be fine together, right? No, that's not how this works at all. If the bottom coat is not properly cooled, you're not going to be able to have, because that needs to be hardened to be the part that doesn't break when the big trucks drive on it. Like sometimes if you do a driveway, you might just do a coat of surface because that's going to be cheaper overall, and there's not going to be many big vehicles driving on just a driveway. If you want to pave something good, you need that bottom coat. And the surface is just to make it look good and to bind to the top. Or the binder on the bottom binds to the surface on the top, and that makes it look good. Where the biggest problem is that people don't understand this when they're just trying to go about their day, when they're trying to do their standard work. They just see some pavement is on the ground, and it's getting in the way of my work, and I don't like that very much. And this causes a huge problem. This causes a massive problem. Because when you drive on uncooled asphalt, two things happen. One, your tires dig into the asphalt and cause it to be, as we can say, not structurally sound anymore. Your tires sink into it and cause it to not cool in the correct manner. On top of that, this asphalt is very hot. So if your tires come into contact it, like I mentioned in the how to approach a closed road video, you're going to have a lot of issues with your rubber being melted by the asphalt. And that's where the big amount of problem comes, is once that rubber melts, we now have to fix all of the asphalt that you just drove through. And the big problem of that is that people don't recognize this when they're in a hurry. So that's where the biggest part of the people can't read argument comes in, as that to make sure that people don't end up driving their giant mechanical vehicles through this very touchy little asphalt that we've got down that is nowhere near cool enough to support their vehicles at this time, it's gonna not exactly hold up very well and ruin the entire project. So if you drive on it, we have to repair that entire portion by using more asphalt to get in there, heat it up, and it's just a whole ordeal that we shouldn't have to deal with if you had read the sign earlier that said road closed. The amount of people that I have seen that have just either gone around either the sign that says road closed or an actual wooden barricade that we have put up to prevent people from being able to drive around. That doesn't stop people. That doesn't stop people at all. In fact, I'd say it is very ineffective at stopping some people, as we have seen people drive through the grass to go around the barricades. We have seen people drive through the actual, ditches in order to go around the barricades. We have seen people drive through the barricades, actually driving straight through the wooden barricades that we have put up that says road closed in order to get past them, only to discover that, mind-bogglingly, the road is closed and they can't drive on it. Complete mind bender there, I know, but they always seem so surprised at that revelation, and I cannot fathom why. One of the best examples, I've got two of the best examples that I've ever seen in order to comprehend the level of intelligence that we're dealing here at this point in time. One time, we were paving a quite large section of road. And as you can see in terms of the illustrations, this is what I end up doing. I end up drawing this little mouth 6 or 7 times because it has to be just right every time, and I do that for every illustration, and it gets on my nerves. But we were paving a very long section of road. I mean, at least a mile, maybe a mile and a half. So in order for the paver to move forward with material, we bring dump trucks in to dump the asphalt into the front of the paver. It gets warmed up, laid out the back flat, and it looks good. But we have to have the dump trucks go in and out of this area. So we've got, just to give you a little example here, here's the road. We've got one barricade over here. I'll do it in yellow because we use yellow barricades. One barricade down here so that the trucks can get in, and one barricade down here so that the trucks can get out. You may be thinking, how can they get through the asphalt? We're paving it in 2 lanes. So we pave this side, the dump trucks drive on here. When we go to this side, the dump trucks will just come back in that way. But, see, you would think that having 2 barricades on each side of the road to indicate the roads were closed would be enough, but no, we also had 2 workers, one on each side of the road, to showcase, one, that to tell people that you can't go down this road, you need to go a different way, and we would point you to a different place that you could go to, but also to move the barricades so that the trucks can go in and out. On the far end side, let me take a look at my stuff here, so I make sure I'm drawing this right. Yeah. The biggest change to this, or the main thing that happened in this example was that one car, a beautiful little Mustang driven by just one of the friendliest guys that I imagine exists on this planet, saw this little setup that we had here, and instead of trying to, I don't know, go around to a different road or talk to our worker that we had there to see if there was a different way that he could go, he just really had to go that way. So he took his Mustang with the worker standing right next to the barricade and barreled his car straight through the middle of it, completely ignoring the worker that was also there, and went straight onto the asphalt. And that, of course, did not go over too well with anyone. He, of course, left the scene before anybody could get over to him and properly give him a good talking to. But the worker was fine, and we eventually managed to get the absolute disaster piece of something that happened down there fixed. But that was very scary, as he showed, just like LeBron James, no regard for human life on that matter. Very cool call from the one play there. The other one, by far my favorite instance of someone driving through a barricade, was Mustang drivers are menace to society. Yes, this is actual like asphalt paving and stuff. But yes, the best example was when we were paving in a wonderful little town that we do a lot of work in. And one guy just really needed... This was a special paving project. We were paving an intersection, and those are pretty good because we have to shut down the whole intersection. Nobody can go on either side, and you have to go around side roads. Well, one guy, I can imagine, was not paying attention because despite all of the entrances to the intersection being closed with bright yellow barricades... That's a good smile. Yes, perfect. This guy went on his bright blue moped, drove straight through the middle of one of the yellow barricades, and of course, he didn't make it to the asphalt, as that clearly didn't go over well. We weren't exactly too worried about the asphalt. We were worried if this man had injured himself beyond repair, as usually going through a wooden barricade on a small moped is not going to end very well for the person that did it. So a couple of our guys went over there to check up on him. He was fine, but what he said next was the real kicker. He said that he was fine, but it was also going to take more than that to actually put a dent on the beast, which the beast being referring to his extremely small bright blue moped. He then got back on it and drove off. So you can... That's some of the nonsense that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Those are some of the best parts. But more of the best parts come when people argue about being able to drive on this stuff. That's where some of the best stories come from, because either I've been able to talk to these people, I've seen my coworkers talk to these people, or both. So normally the biggest excuses are that they need to go this way, they need to get to work, they need to whatever, this or that and another. But the best stories come from people that just cannot understand that they are in the wrong in this situation and that we have to be the ones doing something wrong. I mentioned a couple of these in the, what was that called? How to Approach a Closed Road video, where I highlighted some of my favorite stories from the matter, but one of them I did not mention is one where we had a delivery truck driver in a massive, absolutely massive vehicle try to get to a house. It's one of the, I can't remember if it was Amazon or one of those other things, but they had to get to a house, and the house was later down on a road that we were paving on. So they couldn't get onto the asphalt, obviously, so they can't get to the house. Well, he starts arguing with one of our workers about how they need to get out of the way so that he can get to the house. We need to move the barricades, let him through so he can make his delivery. We obviously tell him that this is not possible because if he drives on that road, it is going to, in a vehicle that big, irreparably damage the quality of the road. When smaller cars, like the Mustang, is what we would consider a repairable damage on that part because it leaves tire marks going in and going out, but we can add asphalt, heat it up to a specific point that it melts with it. It's a very tedious and difficult process that we shouldn't have to go through, but one that we can repair. If we let this massive Amazon-like vehicle drive on this road with all of the weight on that car, it is going to cause massive damage to that road, to the point where we'd have to sign off a liability agreement with the people that paid us to do the road, saying that we cannot properly guarantee the quality of this road anymore based on what this man has done. But thankfully, we didn't have to do that because we rightly shooed him off and just said that you'll have to come and make the delivery tomorrow or something because we can't let you through this road without it being destroyed. So he drives off. So we start going back to working on the road, making sure everything looks good. About 10 to 15 minutes later, guess who comes right back around on the side of the road that we just shoot him off of and tries to sneak around the barricade while we're not looking? That's right, it's the exact same guy. Yeah, the bigger UPS truck type deal tries to sneak around the barricade. Like if he goes slow enough and is quiet enough, we might not notice him and he can get in there and make his delivery quick. No, the worker speeds over there on the speeds over there on the roller and just absolutely lays into this guy. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? We told you you can't go on here. And he's like, I have to make this delivery. There is nothing, you cannot prevent me from going through here. And yes, we can. We are supposed to do that. That is the part of the deal, that we're supposed to not have people driving on this. Get out of here. And we managed to shoo him off again. Eventually, he just does a remarkable and unprecedented idea of getting out of his truck, taking the package, and walking over to the house to put the delivery on, walking back to his truck and leaving. I don't know why that wasn't thought of before, but eventually the package did get delivered. And our project wasn't absolutely completely ruined. So everybody got off with a nice little slap on the wrist there. Normally, we're not so lucky in those types of situations. We've had several instances of people just not listening to instructions or making personal calls on their own that just have horrible, awful consequences for the entire project. One of the newer ones being when an electrician guy just decided that, all right, well, these guys just paved the nice, fresh... If you think driving on the binder is bad, driving on the surface is way worse, because with the binder, you can fix it up, make it look decent, but the good-looking surface is going to be put on top of it anyway, so as long as it's structurally sound, it doesn't really matter how it looks, because people aren't going to be looking at it. The problem is when people drive on the surface. That is a lot harder to repair, because those tire tracks don't just come out. You have to, burn them away, add new product, get everything squared away on there, and it's still probably not going to look as good as the standard binders repair, because the surface is really important that looks good, and it's really thin because it's so expensive. So getting any type of, you're not even allowed to step on it with your feet. You can't even walk on it after it's laid until it's cooled a little bit. Otherwise, your footprints are going to show. That's how thin and important the surface is to make it look good. So imagine the weight of that UPS vehicle that we've had Imagine that weight of that UPS vehicle, but it's an electrician machine that has massive tires rolling onto the surface we had finished not an hour ago, which is, as you can assume, not enough time to cool for it to be structurally sound. You should not drive on surface for pretty much a whole nighttime cycle, and even then you may want to wait another day for it to cool if it's in the middle of summer where the heat is. This was towards August, so you really only need to wait a day and it should be fine. An hour after we had left the project, an electrician vehicle that is meant to raise and lower electricians so they can get closer to the roof with, I'd say, about 2 feet radius tires, rolls onto the asphalt, makes huge indents, and once they are done with their little electrician work, they just rolls away. Not like nothing ever happened. And we are left to discover this that next morning when we get a call about it. And that was very fun. That was a very fun thing to witness, was the boss having to meet with the people and try to determine why there are massive tire marks on our supposedly should be looking very good product. I believe the analogy that was used to describe to the electricians what they had done was if we had gone into the building and just started pulling random wires for no good reason. So, yeah, that one was a very fun thing to get done. And that was already a disaster project because the prep work hadn't been done right by the people that had done the work originally. So we had to take all that and repair that. Let's see, what else for people arguing? Oh, fun. Both of the things that can be brought up for when people argue, the most fun ones are when people telling us that they had no idea that the work was going to happen, or that we actually are not allowed by law to close the roads. So, for the first one of those, it comes when, normally when we do work on an entire road like that people live on, we give them papers that showcase that we will be paving from this day to this day and or milling from this day to this day to get the paving work ready. So we've given you at least a 2-day notice that you need to park your car either in a different area or on this area so that you can get your car in and out and not mess with, one, the paving stuff, because this is super important to let people know, because if they don't know, they're going to park their cars in their garages, and when they try to get out to go to work, they can't, because they can't drive on the asphalt without damaging it and damaging their cars. So we make sure to give them at least a 2-day notice on all of them. Every single time that we do this, there is always one. There's always one of just either somebody doesn't read or doesn't remember the notice that we either give to them in person or leave on their front door so they can discover, as well as post no parking signs along the entire road, that either leaves their car right on the road that we need to pave on, or just doesn't remember that we were supposed to be paving that day. So they usually come into play. So sometimes it'll be somebody coming back and not realizing that they can't get their car back into their garage, so they just have to park somewhere else and walk to their house. Those are the easy ones to get around. Instead of community chest enchants. Yes. So instead of that, the ones that we most often have to deal with are the people that work late shifts, or not late shifts, but afternoon shifts for their jobs. Those are the most fun because we get to deal with somebody trying to pull their car out to get to work, only to realize, wait a second, oh yeah, that's right, they're paving today. Well, there's 2 options for you here, and that all depends on whether or not we have gotten to their house. So if we have paved one side of the road, the other side has been tacked, which is basically putting tar all over the road so that the binder sticks to it better. We can let you out. We can actually let you out of your house if that side is tarred because it will get tar on your tires, and that is obviously not good for them, but it won't cause any major long-term damage to your vehicle, so you'll be fine on that regard. But there's also the chance that we have already paved in front of your house. And if that's the case, we have a massive problem on our hands, because you need to get to work and we want to let you get to work. But if you leave and drive on this asphalt, we are going to have a massive issue on our hands, especially if we're doing surface. So usually what ends up happening is we try to negotiate a way for them to drive through grass so that they can actually get to a road that we're not currently working on. But, the worst ones are when there's just no way out and they have to call someone to pick them up and take them to work. Those are the worst ones by far. Sometimes it just has to happen, though. This is why you gotta read what we give you. As you can see on the screen ahead of you, I am getting some of the pictures off of eBay listings. That is because there is... No, I'll go back to Paint. I'm getting imagery to use for the Microsoft Paint. But we'll divert from the asphalt path for 1 second here to let you know how much of this I have to research, because there is not one good place to look for information on Game Monopoly. I have 4 sources here, and I'm actually going to address this in the video. I have to use 4 different sources, including 2 eBay listings, in order to get to a place where I can actually give you the information about this video that's important. I copy and pasted that. I'm an idiot. But yeah, so I have to rip cards from some eBay listings that I will credit in the description. So if you want to buy them, you can go to these places here for a nice cheap option to purchase Game Monopoly. This is one of the cheaper options there, only 600 smackers. But the other one, what was the other thing that I mentioned in terms of... The other one was... It was lying... Oh! Telling us that we're not legally allowed to close the road. That is a really good one. Because sometimes people will tell us, as I mentioned, this is a road that people need to drive on to get around. We can't close this and not incur some type of legal punishment. We are restricting the road access. We are causing issues for everyone that has to drive on that road. And the funny thing about that is, if we are paving a road, it is most likely that we have been employed to pave that road by the local town government. Private paving companies end up doing some government work if they don't have their own system and don't want to rely on the state or county road workers to do it, because anytime they do it, it looks terrible. So a lot of that is going to come with Crim and Sons Paving. That's where the little hat that I wear in all the videos, that's a real hat that I wear around. I worked for them in the summers. Benny, I have good news for you. Sorry that I have to look at the chat. I'm doing all of the streaming on a laptop because I do not have a multi-screen desktop. So the setup I've got here, I wish I could take a picture of it. I have the OBS and Paint 3D on the laptop that I'm looking at here. I have the script of Game Monopoly that I'm using to draw these pictures on my phone. And since I cannot use my phone to look at the chat, I have to look at a separate laptop, the good laptop that I have, but one that sadly doesn't have Paint 3D as a program. So I'm using a 6-year-old laptop to draw the pictures, a new laptop that I've been using so that I can actually look at the chat and make sure the video is working, and my phone, that I usually use to look at chat, to actually get some information on what I'm supposed to be drawing here. But back to that, we're not legally allowed to close the road. That is an excuse that I heard from one of my most all-time favorite memories of somebody just being completely unaware of the situation they put themselves in. We had just finished paving surface. OneDrive isn't signed in. Too bad. I hate them. We had just finished paving surface and need to one of the options that we can do, it was a very short section of road. If the 1 mile road was this long, this road was probably like this. It's a very small connecting road between an intersection and a long stretch of road that had already been paved. So we put a road closed sign. I'd say, here's the intersection. Oh, that is not how that works. Here's the intersection. This is the part of the road that we're paving, and it goes over here. We have a road closed sign all the way up here where the road starts. Another intersection is right here that connects this part of the road with the other stuff. And we have 2 road closed barricades right on this part, so you can't even get into this spot. What is awesome is that while we do short sections of road like that, we can actually decrease the time it takes to, hold on, the new stacks. Oh, right. Instead of, right, okay. So when we do that, when we pave those short sections of road, we can actually use water to cool them off faster. You don't want to do that on long sections of road because you're going to need to use a lot of water, and that can cause difficulties with the asphalt being able to cool properly. But when you do short sections of road like that, we will be able to ask the town what they want to do, if they want us to cool the road off with water so that we can open it up faster. And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. This one said, we don't want to keep the road closed for very long since it's a pretty important section. So just go ahead, use the water to cool it off faster. And as soon as you're done, you can go ahead and open it up. It'll be fine. So we're cooling off the road. It takes the cooling time down from about, I'd say, an entire night cycle to just like half an hour, which really gets the road opened up quicker. But during this time period, a man has pulled up. I don't know how this man has pulled up to the barricade. In order to make sure that nobody drove this, we had a section of barricade where the road started and a section of barricade where the part that we actually paved set up, because we really don't want people driving on this. This man pulls up to the second set of barricades, and we have no idea what he's doing here, because the part of the road that he needed to drive on to get over here has been blocked. So he starts yelling at us saying that we need to let him through. He needs to go through this section of the road. And we're like, as you can imagine, no, we can't do that. If we do that, you're going to ruin the surface and it's going to make everything look awful. And he's like, I don't care. I have to drive through here. You're not allowed to close this road. That's illegal. And that's where, if you watched the How to Approach a Closed Road, one of my favorite sections on that one is the "No, we're not. The town is literally paying us to do this" quote comes from. But of course, he does not take that very well. And so he's like, well, how am I supposed to get through here? There is no indication of that. There's no indicator that the road has been closed. And we're like, that's not true. We have 2 barricades at the road that you would have had to drive through to get here. So let's start asking some questions here. See if we can get him on there. We ask him, did he see the road closed signs or the road closed barricades that would have prevented him from getting over here? And he said, yes, I did see them. And so we then asked him, okay, what did you do when you got to those barricades? And his honest, dead-faced, deadpanned expression of just, he said this with full conviction, not an ounce of hesitation, before or after. He says that I drove around them, and then just waits for a response to that. And I have to turn my head because I'm going to start laughing at this guy, and I can't do that in front of him, or else that's going to make the situation even worse. He fully admitted to just going around the barricades and went up to us and said that there was no way for him to know that this road was closed. We promptly shooed him off, told him to find another way around. We didn't even, at this point, we couldn't even give him like directions to tell him how to get around to the place that he needed to go, because there was a way to get to the town without using this road. It's just a little bit out of the way, but at this point, we just had to get him out of here so we could start cooling the road again. So we just tell him to find him another way around, and he did. When we went to investigate the barricades to make sure that there was no damage to him, he did not touch the barricades. He had drove off the road through the grass and past the barricades to get through. This is just the level of intelligence that we have to deal with on a daily basis. This is just what we have to do. It's incredible. But yeah. What the big problem is, when it's really funny afterwards when people try to do this and we're able to stop them, but it's not really funny when they actually manage to get through, because it's the repairing of those mistakes that takes what could be just a nice simple project and could end up like adding a half or like a full hour to the project time just to repair those mistakes, because we have to take the hot asphalt from the paver or the dump trucks, put them on the spots that we have to repair, take those and use flamethrower torches that we use to heat the asphalt, to heat the areas around them so that they're no longer cooled, because we have to get that asphalt into there and make it meld with the other asphalt that has already been there. I cannot read and speak at the same time. We have 3 jobs each. Okay, having different effects. Yeah. So after we heat that, we have to use rakes to rake the asphalt in so that it looks good. Take that and repeat that process about 3, 4, 5, unlimited amount of times until it looks good, or it looks as good as it possibly can look. And that is not a fun process, especially when you've just finished the project. You go back to the other side. This happens time to time when we do like work in industrial areas. You just finish the project. Everybody's looking good, looking around. We've got some leftover asphalt. We go back to where we started. That's around the corner somewhere. And some dingus that had gotten off on their shift had just not paid attention and drove straight into it and then driven off without telling us. And we're like, oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. So there's another hour that we're just there for no reason. It's a nightmare to deal with sometimes. But that's not the most scary times that you will have people try to get on the asphalt. Like I said, the asphalt comes out at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not going to go over well if you step on it with your shoe, let alone with your bare feet and or paws. And this is where we have to be really careful in residential areas, because while you think parents would either tell their kids to not step on the burning asphalt with no shoes on, or keep their pets inside so they don't get out, that's supposed to be black. I don't know what I'm doing. Everything in this is black arms. You would think that they'd be able to keep their pets inside so that they don't go out running towards the asphalt, and yet here I am talking to you about it, so you know that's not the case. More than once, we've had somebody either burn bike tires, burn their feet, burn some paws while walking around on the asphalt, and it is not fun when you see a dog running towards the asphalt and you're like, uh-oh, and everybody just stops what they're doing so they can try to keep this animal off the asphalt. And if it's already gotten on, do everything in their power to get the animal off the asphalt so we can start getting the hot mix asphalt that's burning their paws off of their paws. It's a disaster. Oh gosh, it is genuinely concerning too if I see like a young kid around asphalt. Like they're just, because I mean you're seeing a bunch of guys, big machines, big shovels, big rakes, just like a big dump truck coming in, coming out, all that stuff. A small kid, especially like a small boy, is going to be super invested in what's going on there. So if we see a kid come out and want to watch us, we have no problem with them watching us work. We just want to make sure, hey, make sure, do not step on this. No matter what you do not step on this. It will hurt a lot. And usually they listen, but not every time. Ooh, yeah, dang. Cat stepping on the burner of your stove, that's actually going to cause what happened to that cat is going to be similar to what happens when animals step onto the asphalt, except when the cat steps off the stove, the heat is no longer on them. When a dog steps off of hot mix asphalt, that asphalt is stuck to their paw, so it continues to burn. It's a disaster. But yeah, we definitely don't want to do that. And those same dangers that happen to them, deer run across pavement, we have had wild animals. That has happened before, because sometimes roads are in the forest, sometimes roads are just very isolated near a wooded area. Sometimes wild animals will run out and step on the asphalt, and at that point, there's nothing we can do about that, because if a deer jumps onto the asphalt, it's going to jump off immediately and just bolt, and we're never going to catch that deer. We're never going to go over and be able to try to help it, because it's miles away by the time we're able to go do anything. But yeah, sometimes wild animals will run on. It's going to hurt a lot, and it'll cause burning, but it's not going to kill any of the larger animals. Of course, if a frog jumps on there, he's done for. There's just nothing you can do about that. So every time we see a frog, we like to pick it up and throw it somewhere else, just so it can not go over there. One time, a snail tried to roll its way onto the asphalt, and we were just like, really don't know what to do in this situation. So we picked it up and just put it somewhere else before it got there. It got really close though. What else do I got? But yeah, all of those dangers that are present for like animals and stuff and other things are present for us too. It is 300 degree asphalt in 90 degree weather, so you're gonna have accidents are going to happen. Luckily nobody's like been I wouldn't say seriously injured. Serious injuries have happened before, but none of them have been near fatal. Everybody's always recovered from them, so that's good. Asphalt's been thrown on people before on accidents with the machinery. Somebody gets hit in the head by something or whatever. That'll happen. You just got to be able to react to it quickly and make sure everybody's okay, and usually it is. We don't have... let's see. In terms of safety procedures, we don't really have like the same regulations that like factories do. So we normally just wear what can work. Because if you wear too much stuff, like if you don a whole bunch of PPE, like a hazmat suit or something, and you're paving in 90 degree weather, yeah, the hazmat suit will keep you safe from a whole bunch of different stuff, but if you are paving in 90 degree weather in a hazmat suit, you're gonna get heat stroke. You're just gonna get heat stroke, and we have to keep our dress light so that we don't get heat stroke. The heat of the 90, 95, 100 degree weather in the summer, magnified by standing next to that hot asphalt all the time, is going to wreck you if you are wearing too heavy of clothes, and it's not good. But they've been doing this for about 60 years. They know what they're doing. Let's see what we got here on the instead. Yes, this is another instead. Let's see, in terms of what else was there? Ah, yes. But the heat of the asphalt and the heat of the sun on that actually has some awesome little benefits for everyone involved, especially like from what I've seen, and that is the complete and utter immunity to sunburn. Most of my arms and every part of my leg from the knee down, if just in sun, like for an extended period of time, if you're on a beach, if you're in the summer heat, they just won't burn, because at this point they're so used to that level of sun that, I mean, they'll tan very quick. They'll develop that browning effect from being out in the sun for forever, but it's not going to burn. Like, my arms have not burned for ages. But that also, it has the opposite effect on other parts of the body, like the back of your knee. My shoulders and the back of my neck actually have the opposite effect, since those parts of my body are always covered by like a shirt or long shorts. Those burn quick, and they hurt when they burn. So you get a little bit of a give and take here. My arms, completely immune. The back of my neck will burn in about 20 minutes. I have not heard about Paul Harrell. I don't know who that is, but yes. Let's see what we got here. What's the next drawing? The next one is effects on the game, the new card stacks. I'll have to do that later because that's a spoiler. Go down here. We'll do yes. Yes. In terms of other aspects of the job that are not quite known to everyone, not a lot of people know about why a lot of paving projects take so long, and that is the biggest misconception, I believe, about road work, is that when people see road work, they tend to see all of the you can't go this way, road closed aheads, all of the stuff preventing them from going where they need to go, and nobody around doing anything about it. And that there is a good reason for that, and that is because we can't. So when you see that, people usually get mad if they see a road closed with nothing happening on it, or a road closed with workers standing around doing nothing. And both of those parts, the nothing happening and the standing around, have very good explanations. When there's nothing happening, usually that's when the asphalt is cooling. You can't just, so like if there's a big road and there's nothing going on there, you can't just, I know I said that water can be used at some times to quickening the cooling process, but if you can, you want that road to dry and cool at a normal pace, as that's gonna be able to have the asphalt settle much more naturally than using water to cool it. So it'll take longer, but it will also make the road more structurally sound. In terms of the waiting around and doing nothing, there is also a very good explanation for that, and is that we can't pave if we don't have material, or we can't do prep work if we don't have the trucks. The biggest weight factor is the trucks, because if how it works usually, I'll go ahead, since I don't have anything drawn, do a little example. This is your standard paver. Look at that. That part's open. That part's, it does not look like that. This part is filled. Start that over. This part, where a person sits, where the machine's kept, we've got the thing here, and it looks like that. Very, very crude drawing of your standard paver here. The dump truck up here is the one that delivers all of the material. So we have somebody driving the truck here. That looks like a snail. Ignore that. That's a dump truck. So the dump truck will dump the asphalt right into the wings of the paver here, and the bed of it, and the asphalt will go through here onto the ground and look really, really good. But if we have no dump truck to give us material, the paver cannot pave anything. So what we have is a fleet of trucks going back and forth between the work site and the place that is making the asphalt plants, to get us material. Sometimes those are really far away from wherever we're working. So there's going to be a lot of downtime between actually getting the work done by using the material that we have and just waiting for more material to come so we can do more work. It's not always going to be a quick succession because you can't have just a massive fleet of trucks going back and forth as that's going to end up causing a lot of issues in just ordering it, because you have to order it ahead of time, figure out how much asphalt you need, and if you just have a bunch of trucks going round and round and round with nobody's care in the world, you might run over on the amount of asphalt you have, and that might cause a big issue because you'll have too much asphalt and nowhere to put it, and that's going to be a big problem. So let's see, what can I say here? So yes, that's why sometimes you'll see workers standing around not doing anything, is because they literally can't do anything. Now, that's not to be confused with a big part of why people think that construction projects are, especially roadwork projects, are just doing nothing. And that's when the state, big time the state, and sometimes the county work is done. If you want road work done quick and you want road work done right, you need to go private, because if you have a government entity doing your road work for you, it's gonna be not great, if I'm being very honest. The private paving, and that's simply due to the fact that the private paving companies get paid by the project. The government paving companies get paid by the hour. And that's a huge difference in terms of the incentive to get as many projects done in as little time as possible with the quality up to standard. Yeah, if you get, usually the state and county roads paving services are going to just do roads like in the middle of nowhere. They're going to do roads that don't matter too much, or just roads within the towns that they operate. If they're a big enough town, they'll have their own paving force, and that's fine. But if your road doesn't have that, if your county doesn't have that and they have to rely on a different county's or like the state's road paving service, it's gonna be bad. It's not gonna be great. Sometimes they'll do a really good job, but in terms of like how they do the paving work, how they go ahead and do their thing, I forgot about keeping this low, but how they do their paving is a lot different than somehow others. They'll usually do a one coat, which is either just using only binder. I have to get back to drawing these things. The new card stacks, correct. Yes. So, yeah, in terms of that, you want to go private. You definitely want to go private. That's not an advertisement. It's just in terms of the stuff, because it's going to not only look a little better because they're doing a double coat with the fancy stuff on top, but it's also going to last longer because a single coat of just binder is going to take a beating by those big trucks. I know it's the structural outline, and you need it to have structure. If you just did a one coat of surface, it's going to take a bigger beating than others. But it's sort of like how I'd say you have concrete as the base for your house, but you don't have concrete as your floor. Like, you don't just want to have concrete as the floor of your house, because I mean, any damage to that concrete is damage to the structure, and it looks terrible. But if you have concrete and then some type of flooring on top of that, the flooring will absorb a bunch of the damage while remaining intact because the structural underneath it is protected. That's basically what surface and binder is. So if you do just surface, it's going to take a massive beating because there's no real structural bottom to that. And if you have only concrete, it's going to look like garbage, and the structure itself is taking damage anytime there's damage. So it's going to last way less time. I'd say probably if you get a bad job done by the government crew, it'll last you about 6 to 10 years. If you get a good job done by a private paving crew, it'll last you 10 to 20, maybe even longer. If you get a bad job done by a scam paving crew, that's going to last you 2 to 4 years at most. You want to watch out for the scammers. New card stacks. Yeah, a big part to watch out for are scams in the paving world. A big part of that are scams that are done by companies and scams that are done by groups. A scam that is done by a group is when sometimes a bunch of people will, like a small group of people will get together, formulate their little paving company, get all their stuff put together, and they'll just go around, they'll pave someone's driveway without letting them know, and when either they get back home or next they come into contact with them, they'll be like, hey, we did all this paving work for you, you have to pay us for the work we did. And they're like, why would I do that? I didn't want any of this done. And they'll be like, yeah, but the work's already done, so you have to pay us. And we're like, huh? What? This doesn't normally hold up in court very well, but I mean, if they can manage to coerce the person hard enough, they'll pay them for the job well done and then leave. And these paving jobs are always terrible. They're awful. They've been laid, sometimes they'll lay straight on dirt, which is just the worst thing that you could possibly do. Sometimes they'll lay just a little bit of stone and then lay on that, which, I mean, you want to lay on stone, but you want to lay on well-measured and good stone, not just stuff that we threw down. Those are the worst kinds of people, or the scam artists that try to coerce you into going along with their little nonsense. But not too many of those happen, because if somebody managed to track onto it, they can figure out who the people are that did it. They can face some serious legal trouble. Another scam that ends up happening is if there's, like, I'd say just a corporation tries to scam its customers without them realizing this. The big way to do that is through recycle. Asphalt is very cool because you can take some portions of old asphalt and recycle it into the mixture of the hot mix asphalt, and that way you don't have to have like wholly original asphalt being made every single time. There's at least a little bit of recycle going into that. But you cannot use too much recycle, or else it's going to cause massive structural damage to the mix, because it's not meant to be all recycle. I've heard rumors being like, asphalt is the most environmentally conscious way to make a road because you can recycle it multiple times over and it won't cause any issues. And that's partially true. You can continue to recycle the roads, the asphalt, a bunch of different times, but only to a certain point. If you have, like, say, a good mix of asphalt will have maybe a really great mix of asphalt will have little recycle. I'd say 15 to 20% of recycle will be a great mix of asphalt. A good mix of asphalt, you can get away with like 20, 25. Don't want to go really much higher than 25. Otherwise, it's going to be a huge issue. Sometimes, though, they'll try and get you by the new card. They'll try and get you by sneaking a whole ton of recycle into those mixes and hope that you will be none the wiser, as you won't really be able to catch on to these recycle usage, because you won't be able to notice the effects of it for a good 4 to 6 years, and by then they're already long gone. A good example of this, that is not what I wanted. A good example of this came, I'd say, 20 years ago, where one paving company around the area, I believe it's like Globe. I don't want to get in trouble for defamation, but I believe it had something to do with Globe Asphalt. If you have a company near you that is Globe Asphalt, it's likely not the one I'm talking about. So don't start hammering their office, telling them that they're bad people. But yeah, they got caught. Oh, that's a mortgage note. They got caught with consumers, especially one which was the local government of a town, signing contracts for at most 20% recycle in their mixes, when they actually were able to go around and identify how much recycle was being used in the asphalt. They were anywhere from 40 to 60% recycle, which is not going to go over well if you find out. That amount of recycle is going to cause major structural damage to the mix as a whole, especially the 60% recycle. Your life expectancy for that asphalt drops from about like 10 to 20 years to probably closer to, I'd say, max 2 to 3 before problems start to form. I mean, it is devastating. They got caught doing that. So, I believe what they had to do was, oh darn it, they had to fix all of the, yeah, that's blurry. They had to fix all of the projects that they were caught performing this on, for free. They had to go and redo every project that they were contracted to do. And they faced a 10-year ban for paving operations within that, I believe, either town or county. There was massive ramifications for their little stunt they tried to pull there. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. But yeah, so you want to be really careful with the people that you employ when you're hiring for asphalt paving. You want a very nice, reputable, I'd say, company. I wouldn't go corporation, because they are willing to sacrifice for they are willing to probably sacrifice product for the bottom line. But a nice, reputable company will get the job done for you nice, and you will have a beautiful road or driveway or basketball court or whatever you're looking for that will last long time. What else do we have today? Yes, pavers tan, dump truck. Fun fact about the pavers tan, in that you can actually see the pavers tan in some of my live action options, like the money card or the group therapy videos. You can actually notice, because I wear gloves when I do paving. Not all of the people wear gloves, because their hands are just calloused to the point where they're not allowed to feel pain anymore. I like to wear gloves because it allows me to, if there's a chunk in the asphalt, I can just reach in and grab the 300-degree asphalt with my hand and toss it out. And if I did that with my bare hand, it would burn the skin right off. But since I've got a nice heavy-duty glove on there, I can just grab it, toss it, and it'll just make the glove a little hot. But because I wear my gloves, my hands do not get tanned at all. So there is a very distinct line between the start of my wrist and my entire hand of just a nice divide between tan skin and completely untanned skin. You can actually see this very clearly, I believe, in the money card video, because the lights are so bright in that one. if you take a look at while I'm moving my hand around and the back of my hand shows, you can very clearly see where the line starts and stops. So that's a project that you can go and look for if you've got some free time. You can go see what a paver's tan line can do to you. But yeah, I would like to take the next couple of minutes to detail to you the hardest parts of the paving job, because by all means, it is not easy. I'd say what we've got, so there's prep, bottom coat, surface, and then there's also milling and grading. So there's 5 general processes that you can get up to at any given point on a paving. I'm going to rank those in terms of easiest to hardest. And there's probably going to be 6 entries because we have a very big difference between milling with a machine and milling without a machine. There is a huge difference between that. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'd say the easiest, number 6, the easiest part of paving would be paving bottom coat. I'd say paving bottom coat would probably be the easiest because bottom coat is thick. Bottom coat can be stepped on, walked on if you need to get something out of there. Bottom coat is very, the chunks are bigger than surface, so it's a little harder to shovel, but you can move it pretty easily in large chunks. I mean, you're just shoveling asphalt. It's clearly not an easy job, but it's the easiest part of the job if I were to rank them. Before I get back to that, what is this called? The new, right. Gotta keep everything. I'd say after bottom coat, because that's very simple, you don't have to heat it very often, milling, grading, dirt. I'd say the next easiest part of paving would be surface. Surface, you do the exact same thing. Those two, you pave bottom coat and then you pave surface the very next day because you do the exact same thing. You dump it into the paver with the dump truck, you lays out the back, you what's the next one? Manipulation, right? Go out the back, it goes on the ground, you make sure it looks good, everything around there. Very, very simple process, but surface, you have to, 1, be a lot more careful because it looks good, because it needs to look good, and 2, you do a lot more upkeep on it while you're paving. So a big part, I can use this part here, a big part of the surface is having to heat it. It comes out at 300 degrees, yes, so it's plenty hot enough, but you need to heat it again before you use the roller to do it so that it stays hot. The surface, since it's so thin, the surface layer will cool very quickly, but you need it to have a certain heat point when you roll it so that it rolls correctly. So usually you'll end up using a torch to reheat the surface after it's been laid. And I have got to tell you, nobody wants to run the torch. Absolutely no one wants to be the one on torch duty because it is just awful. These are not like standard flamethrowers like the ones, where's my pen so I can draw you exactly what we've got going on here. What a torch is not some type of backpack that you have on the back. You know, you've got your straps, you've got your tank back here, and you've got the thing that comes out here with the little gun like everybody thinks a flamethrower is. Whoosh, wow, fire. No. We've got the good torch, which is a propane tank, just your baseline propane tank with a line that comes out of it that the gas travels through over to this part here with a dial that increases the intensity of the fire and the part here where the fire actually comes out of. This part is very hot. And this torch is very heavy. And this part is very unwieldy. Nobody wants to do the torch, especially for a long period of time, and that's where a lot of the problems with surface can come up, especially if you have to repair it after somebody has just gotten done driving on it. You will have to torch the crap out of that thing in order to make the surface better, and that is a lot of torching. It is just the absolute worst, and nobody wants to do it. That's why it always falls on whoever's new. Whoever's the new person ends up with the torch, and that usually the 3 newest people on the ground crew will end up on torch duty. But then again, if someone's really good with the torch, congratulations, you just earned yourself some fantastic stuff. So that's where a lot of the surface problem comes in. You can't step on it after it's been laid until it's been rolled. You have to be really careful with everything, and it's just you got to be really careful. I'd say in terms of prep work, let's see, there's milling and then there's grading. There's also a third one in there, but it's beyond easy. It's just like setting stone down. It's hardly even a process. You just get the stone down, the guy runs on the... Oh, wait, that's grading, yeah. So grading can be either really easy or really hard. I'd say in terms of the easy grading, it's when you just dump stone down. We have the skid loader and the grader, run the stone around, roll the stone. Looks fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal. That stuff is easier than bottom coat. The one that would take the number, what are we on? 3, 4? I think we're on 4, yeah. The one that would take that is definitely, that would be grading with an asterisk. An asterisk for grading is when you have to do a lot of it by hand. It's when there's I'd say either in some sort of alleyway or there's some sort of thing in the way that means that the skid loader cannot get to that area. When that is the case, you have to move all of the stone by hand using shovels and rake it all down, and then, oh my gosh, and then you have to set the stone in place with the whacker. Don't even get me started. I will get back to the whacker. You are going to love the whacker. It is a wonderful piece of equipment that has almost killed someone before. It is a great time. If you don't need to use all of that, and the whacker honestly is fine if you're using it on stone. You don't need to put water on it or anything. If you need to use the whacker on asphalt, it's a whole different ordeal. But again, I'll get back to the whacker when we get to equipment. I'd say, yeah. So if you have to move all that stone by hand, it's a chore. It's really stinks. It's not fun. But next 2, I'd say top 2 hardest things from here. I'd say, or top 3 hardest things. Number 3 would be general prep work. I'd say in terms of needing to, in addition, we've got processes like measuring. We've got like measuring it out, making sure everything's in the correct order, making sure everything's the right depth, making sure everything's the right angle, making sure that all of the weeds have been burnt, killed, poisoned, whatever you need to do to get the weeds out, making sure everything is in the correct area, making sure all of that stuff. That is difficult because you need to be you have to use specialty workers to get that done. You have to use the people that have been here forever, know what they're doing, and that is either extremely tough for them because they need to do all of the mental calculations, they need to get everything done. There's a lot of math that goes into making these roads look good. If you are not one of those people, it's just extremely boring. So that's why I put it up there, because you're not doing a whole lot. It's just not good. It's just not fun, but it can be fun depending on the people you work with. A big chunk of paving is it's not fun, but sometimes it's pretty bearable because the people you work with are some nice people, which can be the case in any type of bad work you do. It can be made infinitely more bearable to do because of the people you work with. But get to the top two. The top two by far, milling. Milling is awful. Milling is bad. And the reason milling takes up the top two spots is because, oh, good night, Benny. We'll get to the whacker. Tolson, we'll get to the whacker when we get there. We have to go over milling first because milling is genuinely awful. Milling takes up the top two spots because there's milling with the milling machine and then there's milling without the milling machine. The milling machine, I wonder if I can pull up a picture of it right now because I can't draw a good picture of it. The milling machine is a massive piece of equipment. No, gosh dang it. That's not it. It's a massive piece of equipment that consists of a spiked wheel that operates, yes, here it is, this thing right here. This is quite possibly the single greatest machine ever invented because it takes the horrible process of milling and it makes it so much easier. Down here, you have a wheel with spikes. It rotates and you can see it doing work here. It tears out the entire chunk of road here. We do this when a road has been damaged to where it would be detrimental to just pave over it because the road under it is just so bad that it's going to negatively impact the road that was being paved above it. So you use the milling machine, you can tear out the entire road, it goes up this conveyor belt and straight into a dump truck, which can be hauled to wherever the millings need to go. People will actually pay good money for millings, like places where people take cars that are broken down, auto places, car graveyards, whatever. They like millings because it's a cheap road that they don't need to pave. But the milling machine has two flaws, and even though it's my favorite machine ever, it has one giant weakness in the end, or two giant weaknesses, is that this is a very small, like you can see the amount of road that is here and the amount of road this will take. In order to do just one lane of this, it'll probably need to go back and forth 3 or 4 times. And at the end of the road, the milling machine will need to stop and pull this part of the wheeled spikes up so that it is not also tearing out road that doesn't need to be teared out and go back to the back and start the process over again. Whoa, don't need that to be dying and everybody get kicked out. So, what happens when the milling machine has to pull up? Well, every piece of road that hasn't been thrown into the dump truck is just left on the ground. What we need to do is take all of that rock and shovel it either into a loader, a skid loader, or something that can take all of that rock and put it into the dump truck. And now don't catch me complaining, because sometimes when there's enough when there's enough space that a road can actually fit both a loader and a skid loader, it will just take most of that and do it itself. So there isn't going to be much to shovel. But when there isn't, there's a big problem in that end, because now we have to shovel all of that rock. And rock is not like asphalt. Rock is way harder to shovel than asphalt is, because asphalt is an at least part new hot mix that is easily moved. Rock is solid, will not cooperate with your shovel at all, and just genuinely hates your guts for even thinking of moving it at all. It just does not want to move. And this used to be so much worse, because before the milling machine was available, or before the strategy of using the loader and the skid loader was invented, everyone would have to shovel massive piles of rocks into the loader or skid loader by hand with just their shovels. And these piles of rocks can get to the point where they're like 2 feet tall. Like they can be massive piles of rocks. Some of the worst stories from people before they adopted the loader skid loader strategy show just massive piles of rocks that they have to shovel in by hand. And that's what brings us to the worst The number one worst part of working in the asphalt preps is the milling without the milling machine. When that's done, you use the skid loader to have a wheel tear out the road similar to the milling machine, but the difference is there's no conveyor belt that loads that into the dump truck for you. So every bit of rock that was automatically thrown into the dump truck before from the whole road that you just milled is now required to be shoveled by hand. And that is a lot. That is a lot of rock. It is genuinely the worst days of the year are days where you have to mill without the milling machine. And that's where grinding comes in, is when the milling machine can't obviously get near manholes or they'll tear them right out of the ground. So we have to take the skid loader to precision grind the asphalt away from the manholes. And those are just awful. Oh my gosh. It's the worst. It's awful. But it's not all bad. It's not all bad. You get the good with the bad. You get the bad with the worst. You get the worst with the worst. It's just whatever you can occupy at the moment. The next new card's correct. The sleaze bag. Gotcha. So in terms of that, we've got two places this can go. We can either go into ground crew and how rain affects the paving operation, or we can get into the tools and machines that are used during the paving operation to make sure everything goes. The rain will definitely take less time to cover, but if we cover the machines, we will eventually get to cover the whacker. So while I get this chance card, I'm going to let you guys vote on which ones you want in the chat. Chat, vote on this. And then we'll go from there while I pull up Monopoly chance card. I swear if I look over at that chat and it says whacker. No, you scum. Over there. Because the rain also causes a huge issue, believe it or not, with what happens there. I'm going to go ahead and say chance on the image. Oh, shoot. No, that's not right. Yeah, whatever. We'll get it. Go there, go there. Rain causes an issue. And time. There we go. Looks like, yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Machines. Okay, machines. I might as well just go straight into the whacker. I hyped it up enough. We're just going to go straight into the whacker. The whacker is not the technical title of the piece of machinery that I'm talking about. In fact, I honestly have no idea what the correct name. I believe it is called some type of mobile compaction device for the technical term of that machinery, but we call it the whacker because it whacks either the asphalt or the stone that we're using on straight down. It's like a portable roller, except way worse, extremely heavy, and very, very vibrating. It vibrates extremely hard when you're using it. I mean, to give you an idea of what it's like to run the whacker, imagine you are holding so let's say you are holding a grocery cart, but one of the small grocery carts. A small grocery cart that the kids can push around in like I don't know, Target, when they have those little grocery carts that your kids can use. Imagine that you're pushing that around, except it weighs, I'd say, let's see, it takes 2 guys to move a whacker. 250 pounds. I'm not exactly sure how much it weighs, but enough that 2 grown One grown man cannot get it out of the back of the truck himself. It takes 2 people to move the whacker from the back of the truck to the ground. And that's saying something because the industrial-sized blowers that we use are... you can get those out yourself. The whacker, you try it, you're going to die. Take that, 250-pound Tyke's little shopping cart, and make it vibrate like this. You're shaking. It's shaking both of your arms. It's shaking most of your body. It's just dragging you around. You have to manhandle this thing to get it to go the direction you want. And while you are doing this, you need to take a watering can and dump it onto the whacker or the ground in front of it in order to make sure that the asphalt does not stick to the bottom of the whacker and ruin the entire project. So this is only used in spots where the big roller cannot reach. It's a nasty machine. It's a disgusting machine that I despise. By far, my least favorite machine in the entire lineup of things. My least favorite piece of equipment, by far. Because it hates you. It hates everything you care about. It tried to kill one of our workers one time because the handle of it is backed on both sides by rubber. So when it got caught under a wheel one time, the rubber piece snapped the metal bar back and it hit one of our guys in the head. That was awesome. But in terms of just whatever the heck is going on there, I hate that piece of machinery. But yeah, that's basically what we've got going on in the whacker. As for the other machinery that we put in the back of the truck, we have the blower, which is actually an awesome piece of machinery and by far my favorite. The blower is I gotta draw these. These are great. The blowers are a set of machines that we have that come in 4 different sizes. We've got the hand blower, which is just a gas-powered blower. I can use the exact model because it's my favorite and I love it. It's the don't look at that. It's the GI86. It's the GI86 hand blower model that we use to either blow asphalt that was left over from the paver off of the roads that we're not supposed to be paving, or dust or other stuff out of the milled parts of the road so that when we lay the asphalt down, there's not just a bunch of dust in the way. There is also the backpack blower, which looks a lot like the... I have got to stop drawing. It looks a lot like that flamethrower model that I drew for you, where it's got the straps, it's got the blow part on the back, it's got the part that comes out with the blower portion here. Yeah. That is it does the exact same thing as the hand blower, same amount of power, just a little bit more power. The hand blower is used for least amount of power, most amount of mobility. This one is little more power, little less mobility because this isn't. You can only move it with your right hand, so you get a lot less in terms of mobility on that end. This one, you can turn it backwards, you can turn it forwards, you can point it up if you want. This one's restricted. The third blower, and most popular with a bunch of the people, is the big blower. This one is on wheels, operates as a circle here, and just has a blowing portion right here that expends all the air. This one has way more power than any of these two, but has a... Why I don't like it is it does not offer a lot of mobility. You cannot get a lot blown off. You will get a lot blown off in the portion it's pointing, but if you want to move it to someplace else to blow something off really quickly, it ain't happening. And then the big one is the big blower, which is pretty much never used except for on big projects. It's just like this one, but way more massive. and just way more power. If you point it in a direction, that thing, there will be nothing in your way after that thing is done blowing. So, in terms of the other equipment, you've got your standard shovels. You got two types of shovel, one for prep, one for asphalt. You got the standard shovel, that looks like a spade. Bad illustration. You've got your standard shovel that looks like a spade, long-handled stuff. Then you've got your short shovel, which is just a big head right here. Very short, but holds a lot more asphalt, so that's what we do for asphalt projects. Right. Ollie. You're gonna love this guy when the video comes out. Trust me. He's my favorite. In terms of our other equipment, we've got the rakes, just your standard garden rakes that we use to push the asphalt around. We've got the torch, the flamethrower, the portable carryable flamethrower, which is awesome and awful at the same time. Am I getting an ad? Yeah, and that end. Sleeves, right. Other than that, you've got the watering cans that we use to cool the asphalt, use to cool the whacker, use to cool all kinds of stuff, commit chemical warfare against weeds, the whole shebang. What else do we use? Shoes. Other than that, those are pretty much what we've got for... Oh, we've sprayed diesel fuel. Just our portable diesel fuel expunger that we spray on the shovels because, believe it or not, if you take tar-infused asphalt mix and put it on a shovel, it's going to stick to the shovel pretty hard. So the diesel fuel is used to wet the shovel so that the asphalt doesn't stick to it very hard. If you put water on there, it's not going to help at all. You have to use fuel. Other than that, we've got the machines. You've got your standard asphalt paver. That is where all the magic happens. You have your fleet of dump trucks, which can either be tri-axle or double axle. You've got the roller, which can be big roller or little roller, depending on how technical you want to get with your rolling. Usually the big roller rolls first so that it can compact it harder, and then the little roller stamps out all the little imperfections with the asphalt, and that makes it look real nice. Ollies. Yes, ollies. Sleeves. Other than those two, you've also got... what else do we unload? Oh, you've got the specialties. You've got the skid loader and the loader. The loader is your standard big bucket thing of where you can put rocks in. We don't end up using it as much as the skid loaders. The skid loaders can be used for all sorts of stuff. They can fit in places the loader can't. They can be equipped with a big... The skid loader can be equipped with different things needing to suit the things. They can be equipped with a bucket to hold stuff. They can be equipped with a grinder, which is that metal spiky wheel to tear up asphalt. They can be equipped with a brush, which is little spindles here that spins around in a circle to move dust and stuff. So it's very, very variable in what it can be used for, and that's why we use it a bunch. You got your excavator. If you've dug into the earth and found, or the pavement, and found either dirt or, heaven save you, mud underneath the asphalt, we will have to bring out the excavator, dig out the ground underneath the pavement completely, and put fresh stone in there so that the asphalt doesn't sink into the ground and break apart in 2 years. That is another thing that you're going to end up getting the short end of the stick on if you get scammed, is that they will just lay straight on the worst material. If you've got sand under there, good luck, buddy. I wish you the best of luck. Let's see, all these sleeve bags, the champs of the game. What else do we got? I believe that's the majority of the machines we use, but another thing to keep in mind, especially if you are looking, I'll give you 2 hints of advice if you are looking to get something paved. You want to keep an eye on the weather when it's your turn, and you want to make sure that you contact the people you want to pave your stuff well in advance. We'll do the well in advance before we get to the weather delays. I'd say if you're looking to contact a paving company that is reputable, that is good, and will do a good job on whatever you want them to do, you will have to go and contact them about probably a year in advance of when you need to get that road paved or your driveway or anything. If it's more of a spur of the moment decision to get paving done, that's okay. You just need to be wary that it's going to take a long time. But I mean, imagine you were trying to book an appointment at a 3 Michelin star French Juan Panter Ristorante. That's Italian. I learned nothing from Money Card. They're going to be booked up on reservations for a while in advance because everybody's trying to get into that restaurant, and there's only so many spots available. It's the same with paving. A lot of people need to have their road work done, but not a lot of projects can be completed all at once because it takes usually a minimum of 3 days to complete a project. We tend to do more than one project a day, of course, but still there's a massive demand for getting this stuff done. So usually if you want a paving job done in 1 year, you're going to probably want to contact those people during, I'd say, the winter of the year before. So if you want a job done in August, let's say you want a job done if you just want your driveway to get paved in 2025, well, a good time to contact them would be anytime, like say it's September, you can contact them in September, you can do them. If you want a job done in 2025, you can just call them right now. But say it's like winter, but you need this driveway done. It'd be fine to contact them during like December and still expect to get in on the schedule for that next year. Like if you're doing December 2024 and you're like, oh no, I need this driveway paved, you can contact them. Pretty decent chance that you'll get put on the schedule for 2025. If it's like spring, you're pushing it, especially if paving season has already started. You'll be lucky if you get in towards the end of the year. If it's the middle of July 2025 and you want a paving job done in 2025, buddy, you're in a bad position. You are in not a great position to get this done. You want this is pretty much how it's done. You want to be, for anything asphalt paving, concrete work, any type of landscaping, you want to do this well in advance, but especially for asphalt, because they do this well in advance and they have to plan around the weather. The weather is a huge part of this. If you've got a paving company that knows what it's doing, you're not going to book every single day for the entire year out before the year has even started, because you need to be wary of weather changes. Asphalt paving is extremely reliant on the weather to be performed. That's why you're not going to see a lot of paving companies doing work in November, December, January. It's because if they put that asphalt down and it's freezing cold outside, that asphalt is going to cool fast and it is going to cool bad. It is going to be structurally, any work that is done in the winter months is going to be crap. It's not going to settle right. It's going to cool way too quickly, and it's just not going to last. That's why sometimes if you do see people doing work, it's like patch jobs where they're just filling in a pothole. That can operate fine, because you need to fix the problem now. It's not a long-term situation type deal. Causing events that you must follow. Gotcha. I'll just have this guy punch him. Other than that, That's the long-term stuff. So you need to be prepared that you're only going to get put up to during paving season, which is sometime between usually, I'd say, April, late April, maybe into late March. I can't remember the exact dates. And then I say early October. If you've got somebody doing paving work for you any point not during those periods, you might be getting scammed. But they might also be very good at what they're doing. So don't take too much into effect there. But the biggest part of the weather, that's long-term weather. Short-term weather is what's going to impact you the most by far. Short-term weather is stuff like rain, a storm, some type of unforeseen circumstance that the meteorologist can put together. The biggest one being rain. If it starts raining, there is two things that can happen. It is a small little sprinkle, and we can just work through it if we're doing bottom, or it is a storm. And if it's a storm, this is bad news bears. If it's raining, then bottom coat can possibly be laid. I say possibly because if it's a hard rain, then you are going to have to make a contact call on that one. If it's raining hard enough that it could cause serious structural damage to the asphalt by making it cool too fast. If you are laying surface, if it is raining at all, you are not getting that paved. You should not be getting that paved. If you are paving that, then either it is raining so lightly that it's barely even a feeling, or something bad is going on, and we need to get this done now. Like maybe a surprise rainstorm that nobody predicted, but usually things are predicted. So if you're getting something paved, and the asphalt people are like, hey, I know we said that we'd do this on these 2 days. That's why usually this will only happen on a driveway. When it's a big road, they'll only schedule those for weeks where there is no rain to be expected, because if they have to delay it a day with those papers that they already gave everybody, they'll have to let everybody know that, hey, actually, I know we said these 2 days, but haha, it's sprinkling outside, so now we need to push this back a day. And they already don't pay attention to the papers anyway, so now that's a whole other ordeal. But if that's rain, if somebody tells you from a paving option that we need to push this back a day because it's raining, you need to listen to them, because if they go out there and pave, your 10 to 20 year lifespan paving operation that you've got laid down that you're not even going to need to look at for nearly a decade, and you force them to go out there and pave in that rain, your nice looking asphalt is going to be crap. It is going to be garbage. And you are going to be like, but why is it like this? And they're going to be like, we told you no rain. And then you're going to, why didn't I listen? It's just a whole ordeal. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I cannot imagine paving in like Florida where that kind of stuff is going to happen. If you have a massive storm like that happen in Florida, you just might not be on the schedule anymore. It's just, there's more pressing issues to worry about than your driveway at this point, as it might not even be there anymore. So, but another part of paving that you might not know about is the cost wavering. Usually, when you sign a paving contract, it is going to have a portion of the contract that says that this is the cost right now. This cost is subject to change depending on the wavering cost of materials, labor, whatever's going on around here, but mostly it's going to be materials because asphalt is expensive. I mean, you're using tar, you're using fuel, you're using hot mix asphalt. There's not going to be a lot of recycle. There's going to be a little bit, but not a lot. That's why people want to run those recycle scans, because it makes asphalt way cheaper and it increases the profit margin. But if you've got a good mix of asphalt, it's going to be expensive. And all of those materials that are in there can be subject to an increase or decrease in prices just for those raw materials, which is going to massively screw with the price of the project overall. If they agree on a price now and for that contract, and 3 months later the price of gas has skyrocketed 20 to 30%, that cost for your driveway is going to change. It's not going to be the same. Because from what we quoted it then to what it's going to cost now, that would be, at this point, it would be cheaper to just take the hit on the driveway not getting paved than to go out there and pave at a loss like that. So that's why it has all of those, and people are made well aware of these fluctuations in price. It's going to be happening, it's going to be stuff, but usually it doesn't end up coming because those massive changes aren't going to happen to the economy within like 3 to 4 months, usually. So just keep an eye out for all of that. Chip seal? Chip seal. Okay, so are you referring to, because there's a lot that could be, are you referring to sealing, like, seal coating an entire driveway, or only filling in cracks, or like filling in portions of a broken up road, or just like something along those lines? Because we don't use the term chip seal, but I know there's a lot that goes along in that type of deal. Hold on, let me figure out what this is supposed to be again. Ollie's right. What I need... Oh, shoot. Did I not do that? Right, okay. So this is 3. Chip and seal. Seal coating is when you take a... Let's see. Seal coating is when you add sealant to the top of the asphalt, which makes it look more black. It can also be colored, but that's not recommended unless you're doing like a basketball court. That gets an extra layer of protection over the asphalt. So like how the surface acts to the binder, the seal acts to the surface. It does that. Any cracks that would form, it's already there to get on there, and you can... This is the main way to keep your asphalt good, is by seal coating it every couple of years. But it's not necessary, but it would be a good way to make sure that any cracks that would form are sealed up. Now there's an asphalt with road gravel sprint. Oh! The road gravel. Gosh, I hate that. I hate that so much. Yes. So, this is something completely different. Nice little... I might be thinking of something different too, but this is where they take either small pieces of gravel, road stuff on that, and instead of properly repairing a piece of road or a section of road with, like, by actually removing it, laying down fresh asphalt that will last a long time, this is where they just take either small bits of gravel, some small bits of mix, some small bits of whatever, small rocks, everything in there, and just lay it across the road. Just absolutely dust this road and the stuff. And what ends up happening here is that cars drive on it enough that they spread the gravel around, and it ends up covering the entire road. That's what they did on one of our main roads that we would use to take to go to the school. And that, oh gosh, it's awful. At the start, it's awful. It ends up fine because the cars spread the gravel around the top enough that eventually it gets all over the road. It ends up covering the entire thing, and it ends up like fine, but it is not as effective as ripping out the road, putting new stuff down, and it's certainly not as good for the cars because the entire time it is spent on that road being moved by the cars, it's getting moved up by the tires. It's hitting the underneath of the cars. It's getting put on the tires. It's getting thrown all around the place. Especially if you're following behind a car in chip seal, it's a disaster. And I hate it so much because it doesn't even last as long as a good, proper fix. It'll last a couple of years Sure, but the road isn't going to be as smooth as if you did paving on it, and it's not going to last as long either. It's just going to be less expensive. That's why a lot of people try to do that if they're like in a local government and they want to get a road fixed quick. They'll use chip seal in order to make a quick fix on that end. And, I just hate it when it's used. It just doesn't work as well. Speaking of things I hate, great option here. Great segue into my least favorite part of the prep paving process, and then that is if an engineer gets involved. We have not, or at least I have not, seen a paving project that has involved an engineer where it has been with him making judgment calls on what this should be, what the angle should be, how much mix should be used, how much whatever should be used, what the entrance point is, what the angle of the asphalt should be, how the road should progress. Any of those that have been handled by our people personally have looked fine. They've worked well. And for the people that have been there the longest time, we'll be passing by projects that'll be like, hey, we did that 20 years ago, and it looks fine. It looks great. Or we did that 15 years ago, and it looks better than the next driveway that has been done 4 years ago. But massive projects that are headed by engineers always have something wrong with them. Every single time. And this is not like a shot at engineers in general, because they do some good work with that stuff. All the like mechanical engineers, all of the people that build stuff, all the people that do all this stuff, they do good. The engineers that plan buildings usually do a good job. The engineers that plan massive towers, all that other stuff. Any type of construction engineer usually does a great job, except for the ones on the road. I don't know what the issue is. There is always a mismeasurement here. There is always a mispieced place of data there. There is always a just boneheaded decision over here. Every single time. It's just like, and usually it's just because they don't know any better, because they're not supposed to be engineers working on the road. They're just engineers that have an entire project and, we've got to do a road portion at this time. I've never done a road before, but this is how we do it on the other stuff, so let's go through here. And they usually do such a good job, and then there's just one bit that ruins the whole thing, and then we have to do the whole thing over. Oh my gosh, the water drainage. They always screw up the water drainage. Oh my gosh, it's the worst part. Because if you do a project and it's looking all good, everything looks flat, but there has to be a certain amount of angle, and I mean slim amount of angle on the direction that the asphalt is moving. So like at the top, in the middle, there will be a slight incline so that the water can drain to the outsides of the stuff, so that the water doesn't sit in the middle of the asphalt and just seep into the asphalt and cause like pools of water to pool up. If there's a pool of water, the water drainage has been done wrong, and that could cause big issues because that water will sit there and start to erode the asphalt faster than it normally would. They don't understand this for some reason, and it boggles the mind. Drives me up the wall. Drives me to go crazy. Every time. Thank you for bringing up the water drainage, because I was about to forget that. But yes, and that was the wrong part. But the worst is when they implement things that don't need to be there. A big thing, if you are ever heralding a construction project and you have to do asphalt around there, and the main engineer that you are working with says that you need, what is it called? I know the technical term for this. It's a seam. You need a seam. It's seam filler, or like seam protector, or some type of seam tar that you lay on the seam in order for it to meld better. Fire them immediately. Get rid of them immediately, because they are trying to swindle your money. engineers usually end up getting paid, especially for the road stuff, a portion of the amount spent on the project. So like if they spend this much money on there, they'll get like 10% of the cost as their payment. If you end up with one of these and they say that you need seam protector or a seam melder, get them off of that project, because if you have a good company doing your work, that seam is going to look fantastic. It's just going to meld this funny little term, seamlessly with the asphalt. You're not going to be able to tell anything about it, and it's going to look great. If you put seam filler or a seam protector on that, no matter how good the paving company did, it's going to look like crap. It's going to look terrible. No matter what you do, it will look so bad. And it's not going to help they'll say it helps the longevity of the project. It doesn't. It messes with the seam's ability to meld with itself, and that's going to cause an issue. It's going to mess with the ability to drain, because now the angle is off. It's going to... I should not have started talking about engineers. Just hire a good paving company, a good reputable paving company, and let them take care of it. If you start messing with their process, or you start having other people come in to take a look at it and they start making different decisions, just let the people that know what they're doing take hold, because they're going to give you a good product as long as you've got a good one. Whew. Yike. Just please don't bring any of them anywhere near your project. I beg of you, please. Let's see, what else do we got? Sure, scammers, engineers, private paving. Yeah, I think that's most of the stuff that I have left to talk about in terms of paving. I think that's every piece of information that I had to rant about for this process. What'd that take? 2 hours? Goodness sakes. I talked about asphalt paving for 2 entire hours. I need to get it together. But yeah, I think that will cover everything. Unless anybody's got some questions, I'll just leave this open for about... Gets one more good drawing butt in there, and this will be a chance to ask any questions you might have before we sign off on this one. I'll go ahead and give you a sneak preview of one of the cards. It is Family Pride, and that is exactly what you're going to expect. I believe you are going to have a lot of fun with the Gay Monopoly video. I have some really good stuff cooking up for the Gay Monopoly video. This is going to be one of my best for sure. Oh, it took a lot of effort to find all of the information on this one, but boy, the information I have found is certainly interesting, to say the least. Anything you can expect from Gay Monopoly, they provide, and they provide in spades. Okay, now we draw the... that'll do it. Nope. I'm excited for... You better be excited for Gay Monopoly. I'm excited for Gay Monopoly. The way I do this is I draw all of the drawings first. That way, if I have any cuts to make to the script for something that I just can't illustrate, I can make sure that gets cut before I do the recording. And I do the recording on the day before it goes, the day before I put all the stuff together. And so I am really excited to record this script. We've got some absolutely stellar information in here that you are not expecting at all. Next stack is... Right, I gotta get these arms drawn. Other than that, we'll draw these arms. Actually, we'll go ahead and draw a nice little farewell. So I thank everybody here for participating in this little stream experiment. I've been taking notes on what has been working and what hasn't been working. I didn't just come in here and expect this to go flawlessly, of course. This is the very first time we've ever done it. So we'll put all the information that I've gathered to good use, make that put together, and create the single greatest product you've ever seen in your life up until that one falls apart and we improve that on the next one. So I've got everything here, all my notes put down, and the next stream that will come up will be a little bit later on, maybe in a different format, but it will definitely be better than this one. So stay excited for that. Stay excited for Gay Monopoly coming out this Saturday. It's gonna be a hoot, I am sure of it. And stay ready, there's gonna be an announcement later, I believe today. Yes, later today there will be an announcement for those of you interested in the group therapy expansion portion. I'll actually be able to get that money sent out, and you'll be able to follow the path of that little adventure with me when that money goes out to see if we can get those group therapy cards, and we'll be tracking that on the new Twitter. So we're going to be looking at that, and so thank you all for tuning in for this one. If you missed the stream, the whole thing will be available on the community portion, or no, the live portion of the channel, and what is that? So yeah, that whole stream will be up. If I get some demand or I can find some good portions of the stream, I can make it highlights. But yeah, so keep an eye on that. Keep an eye out for Gay Monopoly. Subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you on Saturday around the noonish area where all my videos usually release. So thank you for watching. And of course, have a fantastic day. I will see you guys next time. You get to see my OBS because, again, I'm doing this on a laptop. Bye-bye!